In this tutorial, we're going to become familiar with the back end of Joomla, or the control panel as it is called, the administrative panel. And how you get to this control panel, this administration panel, is to simply type in the URL of your site, or if you are using a temporary login situation, it might look something more like what I have here, and then a backslash, and then type in administrator and hit return, and this will bring you to the login panel for the back end of Joomla. We call it the back end because it is kind of the controlling section of your Joomla website. It's where you do all of your management. Kind of like a store where you would have all of your goods that you want the public to see in the front end, and the back end is where you are doing all of the bookkeeping and management of your store. Okay, so here's where you type in the login information that you entered just at the very end of when you were doing the Joomla installation. This is not your database login information. This is the user information that you changed from admin to your name, and then the password that you gave. So if you have that written down somewhere, or if you have an excellent memory, just go ahead and log in. So here we are at the back end, and you'll see that you have a number of large icons here that can be used to help you control your the construction of your website, the management of your website, and the updating. But just know that most of these icons are also available, accessible up here from this menu strip up here. There's a kind of a duplication going on. You can access your controls either by using the top menu strip, or for most of the major items, you could also just click on the large icon. Let's maybe go through some of the main features. The control panel is what can bring you back to this page that we're viewing right now. Anytime you're off somewhere else, you can come back to the control panel by clicking this button here. My profile. Let's click on that. Right now, by default, Joomla has called you, the person who set up the site and the first person to log in, they're calling you a super user. But you don't have to stick with that. In fact, it's a good idea to change this to your real name or your pseudonym, because every time you write an article, it's going to be tagged by this name. So it's better to have the name that you want to go with for being viewed on the site rather than super user. They'll see what you prefer. And here you also have the opportunity to change your login name and password. And it's a good idea to change this every once in a while, change your password every once in a while. However, you should know that when you make a change here, the next time you go to log in, you'll need to know this new information. And it's not easy to retrieve the login and password information for the administrator. You can easily get this for other users that become members of your site, but there's no real easy way to retrieve your login name and password. So whenever you make a change here, always be sure to make a note of this information somewhere, write it down in a safe place so that you won't get stuck and never be able to log back into your website. After you make any change, you should always do a save and close. Don't use the back button key. Use the save and close. And let's take a look at global configuration. Here you can change the name of your site. If you're working on a site and you don't want visitors showing up while you're making some changes, you could set your site offline by just hitting the yes button there. And you could even change the message that people read if your site is offline and you've got it shut off. And for now, most of these settings are fine. Here's a place where you could type in the description of your site. You just maybe a couple of sentences that describe the type of site that you're building, and also some keywords that might describe the type of site that you're building. And this will help people find you in search engines if you have good metadata settings. We won't take the time in this tutorial to go through all of these settings, but there's one I do want to show you over here under the System tab, and that is the session settings. Right now, by default, Joomla has a session lifetime of only 15 minutes. And what can happen is you can be inside an article and working on an article. If you go past the 15 minutes, when you go to save your article, you're just going to be bounced back to the login screen, and all of the work that you did on that article will be lost. And that can be frustrating. So I always like to set this to 60 minutes, and usually I never am in any one place for longer than an hour before saving in some way. Okay, well, let's save and close that. Let's go over to Users and take a look at the User Manager. This is where you can manage all of the people who join your site and become members. If you are kind of like wanting to be a blog site and you want to invite people to become a member of your site so that they can add comments and that type of thing, well, this is where you would control all of that information. Right now, you should probably only have one member, and that is yourself. You can create different types of user groups that you are able to give different types of permissions. And this way, as people become members of your site, you can give them different levels of permission. Some might be able to add articles. Some may only be able to add comments. Others, you might even give permission to log into the back end and make changes, add articles from the back end. And so it's nice to know you can set up a lot of different types of access to your site in user groups. Let's go over to Menus and take a look at the main menu. Right now, because we installed all of that sample data, we are getting a listing of the menu system of the sample website that we installed. If we were to go to our sample website, and you can do that, you can visit your site at any time by just pressing the View Site button. And here, if you take a look at this menu system here and compare it to the menu listing that we have here, you see that it's identical. For example, if we wanted to change the name of Features, we could just open that up by clicking on it and change it to something like Samples. Save and close it. Go back to our website, and you'll see that we have now changed Features to Samples. That's how easy it is to change something like a menu item. And we'll talk more about menus as we go along. In this lesson, we're just kind of giving an overview, a sweeping overview. Under the Content tab, here is where you make the organizational structure of your site. Here is where you create a number of categories to sort all of your content into so that you can be very organized about your website. And then once you've created a number of categories, you can use the Article Manager to create content. And once again, we see a large listing of articles here, and that's because we installed the sample data. In fact, if we go to the bottom here and display all, we can see that there's quite a few articles that have come in with our sample data. And this gives you a chance to take a quick look at what an article looks like and how easy it can be to add content to your website using a what you see is what you get type of text editor. And you can add images, video, all sorts of things to these article panels. And then by connecting these articles with menu options, you can easily display articles on your site. Let's close out of this. And components. Now, the basic engine of Joomla has several of these components that come by default that provide extra functionality to the main engine of Joomla. And then as you work with third-party groups like Rocket Theme, you will see that they also provide comprehensive plugins that require their own control panels. And when a plugin is complex enough that it needs a way to control the plugin itself, it will usually show up under this components. For example, this rock gallery is a plugin of Rocket Theme that came in automatically when we installed the sample data and the template. Because many of the elements of the template itself will rely on this extension of Rocket Theme, it was installed automatically. And as we continue on with our lessons, we will be installing more third-party plugins, third-party extensions. And some of these will, like we say, be so complex that they have a control panel of themselves. And usually these will show up under our component drop-down menu. Okay, under the Extensions tab, we see, first of all, an Extensions Manager. And this is how you add third-party software and plug it into your Joomla engine. And we'll demonstrate that perhaps in our next lesson, how to install third-party plugins. And then we have what's called a Module Manager. And again, because of all the sample data that we installed, we see a large listing here of modules. Once we begin to work on our website, we will actually be deleting most of these modules and starting with just 3 or 4 basic modules. Now, basically, what your module manager allows you to do is to create a place to put your content. You remember back here we were looking at articles, we were looking at menus. Well, here in the module manager, you are given the opportunity to place these items as well as many other types of items like login panels and search boxes and perhaps a box to show who's online. You know, all of these different types of features that you normally see on a website are placed somewhere on your page. And in an older website, you would have had to know a lot about cascading style sheets and know the HTML language in order to determine where each of these elements or these pieces of content would show up on your page. But with Joomla, it's just a matter of placing your content wherever you want using your module manager. Now, without the images in place, this is a little hard to visualize. If we were to pull in the website as it's displayed on Rocket Theme website, this top part you see is kind of a slideshow displaying or describing some of the features of this particular template. Well, let's say we didn't want to show this at the top of our site, or say we wanted to shut it off altogether. Well, that's something that you can do inside of the module manager. This here FP showcase is what's controlling that whole section. Let's say we wanted to turn this section off. All we have to do is hit the little green button and it turns to red. Of course, it changes position on us, but there it is there, turned to red. And now if we were to go visit the home page, we'll see that that section is no longer showing and everything else in the website has been pushed up. Now let's say that we maybe want to put that slideshow back in, but we want to put it below this area here. We want this to be the main thing that people see. Again, if we were to bring in the site to show you a little better with the pictures. Let's say we wanted this whole area to rise to the top and stay at the top, but put this slideshow below this. How do we do that? Well, again, it is controlled by the module positioning. Let's first of all turn it back on, but open up the control panel for this module, and you can do that just by clicking on the link. And here, inside this control panel, you are given a wide range of controls that you can assign to this module. For example, you can change the position where it's going to show on the home page. And further, you can decide on what pages on your whole website where you want this slideshow to appear. By checking different boxes here, you can have this slideshow show up anywhere on your website, deep down inside your website if you like. Right now it's just showing on the home page. Okay, but let's change that position. Very easy to do. We go up here to select position. Right now it's showing in what's called the Feature A position. And if at any time you want to know where all of these positions fall on the page, you can open up the Rocket Theme website and go to the Kirigami demo that's available there. And over here under Features, you can go to Module Positions. And here you'll see the website represented in blocks. And this particular template has actually 78 positions, and here they're all named in the order that they appear on the page. So now we can go back to our control panel for this particular module and see that it is showing up right now in Feature A. As we look back at our panel, we see that's very close to the top. If we were to move this module down to, say, the content top, then it's going to go down further on the page. Let's try that. Check the select position. And by default, Joomla will show you all of the positions of all of the templates that are currently registered with Joomla. So if you want to show only the module positions of your current template, you should go over here to Select Template and check your current template. And now the only positions that will show in your list here will be the Kirigami module positions. So let's scroll down and we're looking for Content Top. And we'll place this particular module now in Content Top A. Let's save that and check out our site. So now we have our featured modules still rising to the top, but we've turned our slideshow back on and it is showing up now below our featured modules. Okay, so you get an idea of how you can move things around by using the module manager. Okay, let's close out of this and check what else is available under extensions. We see we have a plugin manager. And some people who are new to Joomla might ask, well, what's the difference between a plugin and a module? What's the difference between a plugin and a component? Well, a component, you remember, is a large third-party plugin that is so comprehensive that it requires its own control panel. And they'll show up here under components. They are actually plugins. They're extensions to Joomla. But in most cases, they are more complex and do require their own control. And the main difference between the module manager and the plugin manager, modules kind of control more where your content is placed, whereas plugins control how your content is, how it functions, how your plugins work, and how you can control different aspects of your plugin. That usually shows up in your plugin manager. And we'll talk more about plugins and how you can turn features on and off using your plugin manager. Okay, and then we have what's called a template manager. In the template manager, we get a listing of all of the templates that are currently registered to your Joomla account. And by default, the Joomla package comes with 3 or 4 templates. And now we have also added the Kirigami template. But you could have several more. You could go back to Rocket Theme and try out a couple of other templates. I like this particular one for the purposes of the website that we're building because it is the first what is called a responsive template. In other words, it is specifically designed to reorganize itself depending on the type of device that people are using to visit your site. So if they're visiting your site with an iPad, well, it's going to, reformat its presentation so that it works well for iPads. If somebody logs onto your site with an iPhone or some other mobile device, it's going to be very responsive to the dimensions of the screen and reposition itself. But the Kirigami template came out in August of 2012, and since then the September template has come out, the fracture. And if you like, you could download this template as well. Even if you only signed up for the smallest plan, the $50 plan that only lets you use one template. Well, even with that plan, you are given access to other templates on the website, and you can try out other templates and move back and forth between different templates and see how each of those might perform and work for you, and in the end decide to go with just the one. And the latest one, Fracture, is also one of these responsive templates that is designed to reorganize itself and reposition itself to accommodate all of the most popular devices that are out there today. And if you downloaded 2 or 3 more extensions from Rocket Theme, they would show up here, and you could choose any one of these to be your default template by just clicking the box and hitting the star up here, make default. Okay, but let's just for a moment just briefly go into the control panel for our Kirigami template, and you'll see that here you are given a lot of features and functions that you can turn on and off and control and manipulate. And so it's a good idea to become familiar with the control panel that you are given access to here with the Rocket Theme template. And we'll spend a whole lesson working with this template and changing things and swapping out our logo with their logo, and show you how to do that. All right, well, I think that covers most of the main features of the back end. Of course, there are many other things that we could talk about, but in this brief lesson, we're just giving you the highlights. And as we continue on with our module of lessons, we'll work with many of these in more detail. But for now, I believe that does it for the Joomla control panel.